Hello again. We're gonna try to finish up our Earth Day art project today. Hopefully yesterday you got most, if not all of your details done for the drawing part. If you still wanted to add some details, you'll want to do that before you start painting. But hopefully you're ready to go. And the painting part, not very tricky, but a couple tips. I would first start with your small details. That way they won't get lost in the bigger painting part because you might accidentally paint over them. So I like to start with a small brush. Hopefully we have enough tiny brushes. You might have to share. I know some brushes may look a little too big for that, but this one's not super small, but it's probably close to the size that you guys have. You can mix colors if you don't have as many colors as this to kind of get the colors you want. Remember, more water is going to make the colors lighter, but you don't want too much water on the small parts because then the paint will go outside of the little detailed drawing. So I'm going to make sure that it's not too much water. You might want to kind of dry it off on the edge there. And I'll just start with a fish to show you. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, pull you closer so you can kind of watch the details here. Okay, so I'm just going to start with the fish here. I'll show you a couple examples and then I'll pause and finish up before I show you the big part. So you guys all know how to watercolor. Okay, just try your best to stay in there. I would do, if you wanted anything else orange, I would go ahead and do that now. Maybe I'll put a little dot on the inside of my flowers here. And then I'll rinse it off in the water. And maybe I'll do a purple jellyfish. I'm gonna add more because that wasn't quite dark enough. And again, if it goes outside of the lines a little bit, it's okay. Just try your best to stay in there. Okay, so I'm getting started there. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of finish up the small details and I'll show you what that looks like. Then we'll move on to the big details. Okay, so as you can see, I kind of finished what I would call my small details, finished the painting part. I really would just remind you to not use too much water, because if you use too much water, the color is going to spread into places where you don't want it to go. If it does, it's okay. You can always get a paper towel and wipe it off, or you could just leave it. Again, it's not meant to be exactly perfect. Once we get into the bigger areas, like I would consider the sun and the moon to be slightly bigger, you might notice that I mixed a couple colors there. So for the sun and moon, I kind of blended orange and yellow a little bit. And I think that looks really cool for the bigger areas to kind of blend a couple colors that might go together. So now I'm going to get started with the bigger spots. You can use a bigger brush or you could continue to use a small brush. Either one works. And you can use whatever colors you want, really. For the ocean floor, I like to do kind of like a sandy or rocky color. For the ocean, I like to do blue. The beach, I do more orangey yellow. And then in the hills and the farmlands and the desert, I kind of do mixes of browns and greens. You could do kind of some yellow and orange for the desert if you wanted to. For the bottom of the mountains, I think those look good brown. They look cool purple. And then I leave the tops of the mountains white for the snow, and then I'll paint in the sky kind of a light blue. The entire outside of the sky, you can choose. Some people like to do it all one color so that the earth part really stands out. Some people like to mix a few colors. I'm gonna give it a shot and just see how it turns out. I'll kind of see what I'm feeling like when I get there. Just don't paint over the places you already painted. Instead of painting on top of them, paint around so that it doesn't ruin the color that you've already put there. So again, here, I'm not going to paint over the starfish. I'm going to paint around it the best that I can. Okay, I'm gonna give it a try and then I'll check back in. I'm working on the ocean and I want to show you something that's working for me. Maybe you'd like to do it too. I get kind of a blob on there, and then instead of continuing to add from the paint and water, I just continue to spread that out kind of as much as I can until that paint is gone. And it helps me make sure I'm not using too much water, and it keeps the paint light enough that I can see the other things that I've made. I just want to show you where I am so far. I'm kind of working my way from the bottom up. You don't have to do it that way, but that's how I like to do it. I'm adding some green to my hills now. So I've kind of got the hills left. And you can make it look like you have different colors in there by just adding more or less water, more or less paint, and then it will show up kind of, some parts will be a little darker, some parts will be a little lighter, and that looks kind of cool when it's like that. So I'm gonna keep going. I am finishing up. I'm almost done. I just have this space up here to complete. I chose to kind of go a little bit darker closer to the moon, and then I'm going to go a little lighter where it's closer to the sun, but I'm still kind of using the same colors. I'm using kind of like some purples and blues. Down here I even added a little black. You do not have to choose these colors. Again, you can choose whatever color you want. You can make it all black. You could do pink. That's really your artistic choice. I'm kind of going around. You might notice that if your colored pencil was too light, that some of your stuff might be hard to see. So before you start painting, we really want to make sure that your pencil is dark enough. If you do lose something and you want it back after you're done painting, maybe you accidentally painted over it and your pencil wasn't dark enough, once the paint dries, you can actually go back over it with colored pencil to make it a little darker. So once you're done painting, you can add a little more. You just have to wait until it dries. So I'm kind of carefully going over. I have some tape up here, so it's not gonna paint there, but I'll have to do that when I take the tape off. Almost done. And the last little bit there. My goal, and your goal, is that there really shouldn't be any white space except for the things that you actually want to be white. Like I left my polar bear white and I left my mountain snow tops white, but otherwise every other part of this picture is colored. So I'm gonna zoom in. My paper is starting to fold a little bit. We'll flatten these once they dry, but I'm gonna go ahead and show you the details there. Okay, and that's it. Have fun. I cannot wait to see these.